I love Unacceptable Fringe. He's the best. No one does YouTube better than Unacceptable Fringe.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We got to talk about tariffs. I know it's all we're talking about lately, but to be completely honest, it's one of the most major things we need to focus on that's happening in our country right now, aside from the fact we need an election yesterday. Now, if you sat down yesterday and watched on the channel, a very popular video came out describing Pierre Poilievre's plan to open interprovincial trade. We also talked about how Quebec and the Team Canada approach is slowly crumbling as Quebec says, we are not going to be socially accepting pipelines coming through our province. That's my best Lego impression. It's sad to see that guys like Doug Ford want to push against Donald Trump simply to get another 4-year mandate. It has nothing to do with actual policy. It has nothing to do with what people in Ontario need. It's all a show. I've said it before. Every circus needs a Carney, which, by the way, is our new book headed out this spring. Keep an eye out for that. That being said, I'm here to relay the very sad news that Trump's tariff threats are back. They're coming back. The tariffs will be back. This is just a 30-day pause. Now, anybody saying it's not going to happen, well, I kind of have a feeling it's going to, because if actions speak louder than words, then what we're seeing is nothing more than the Canadian government brushing off Donald Trump's threats. I want to show you guys a clip here of Mark Carney. It's important to note here with Mark Carney that he sat down for a press conference. It says he pledges to run a government that is focused on outcomes, not spending. That's the biggest load of hogwash we've ever heard, especially considering he wants to use the tariffs to print hundreds of billions of dollars to give back in stimulus. He vows to reverse the capital gains tax hike, reduce red tape, and increase competitiveness. Boy, he's starting to sound like Pierre a lot, isn't he? I know people constantly say Pierre doesn't want to unveil his plan because the Liberals are just going to copy it. But let's take a listen to what Mark Carney actually has to say. Let's see if we can spot the hypocrisy in these statements here. Let's go.
We can and must change our government to become more effective. Canadians deserve a government that works for them, a government that's focused on outcomes, not spending.
Perfect, Mark. So let's call an election, since you're not an elected official, since you're just an outsider and you have no mandate from the Canadian people. Let's call an election. Let's get the Prime Minister back and let's have a vote of confidence. See how that ends in non-confidence, and let's call an election. Hypocrite.
A government that spends less and invests more. In the coming weeks, I'll propose a new approach to federal budgeting that will save precious taxpayer dollars while catalyzing the enormous investments that Canada needs to fully realize its promise. We can and must change how much of your hard-earned money you get to keep. Canada needs a middle-class tax cut, and my government will give them one. Young Canadians need a boost to their incomes so they can catch up after being knocked sideways by the pandemic and the housing crisis. Here, too, my government will deliver. And all Canadians deserve more competition in our economy so that they can get the best value for their hard-earned dollar. We can and must change how we build. This is a pivotal time for our economy, a time to build, and my government would catalyze enormous private investment to build millions of new homes for younger Canadians, to make the AI revolution work for all Canadians, and to build a clean energy superpower that will power, literally, our prosperity.
So there you go, right there. I'm not even going to waste your time listening to the other minute and 20 seconds of Mark Carney's hogwash approach here. He essentially went into Pierre Poilievre's office and stole one of his scripts from his writers and decided, yeah, I'm just going to speak Pierre's talking points, but then I'm going to wedge in the climate emergency at the end. We all know how that turns out. Oh, Mark. What's really funny here, and what's really hilarious, is that when you look at this press conference, first off, I don't know why anybody's giving this guy a platform. Again, he's not an elected official. He's not even an MP. He's just in a leadership race. Why is the media giving him so much attention? Well, nobody else is. Because if you look here, Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney, this is on CPAC, keep in mind. Everybody watches Question Period on here, all government news, 36 views in 1 hour. Now, I understand that during a live stream, the numbers are different than when they end the live stream. But even on Unacceptable Fringe, when we have a live stream with 600, 800 people, 1,000 people watching the live stream, when we end the stream, it'll still sit roughly around 1,000 views when it's over. So even if this live stream had just ended when this was shown, comments are turned off, 2 likes, 1 hour ago, 36 views. On CPAC. Nobody takes this guy seriously. But when it comes to the tariffs and people saying, well, listen, Derek, you haven't even touched on that yet. Well, this leads into the joke. Because you would think Mark Carney would be more focused on, if he wants to be leader, how are we going to handle the border? How are we going to handle the substances and illegal products coming into the country and work alongside Donald Trump? It's never been mentioned. It's always, we're going to fight back dollar for dollar, but don't take my word for it. Here's Military Barbie coming out and insists the government is now focused on implementing Canada's plan to secure the border. Listen to this brilliant response to a question that she's asked in regards to the tariffs that are going on. Again, shows you exactly where their priorities are sitting right now. Let's take a listen.
Yes, yeah, I'll take after me.
Going forward, when you talk about the U.S. president's preoccupation has been the border security and fentanyl, managed to get this delay of 30 days. What now is your advice to the Prime Minister to convince President Trump to either extend that pause beyond 30 days or to ultimately eliminate it altogether? Where do you see, what's your advice to the Prime Minister to convince the President?
Well, it is to make sure that the border plan is implemented. We're a government. We need to make sure that these are not only words, but they're transferred into actions. And that's what we're doing. Black Hawk helicopters are already patrolling the border. We already have drones that have been bought that are patrolling the border. We now have changed the opening hours of our border posts across the country. And
well, I'm so glad they've changed the operating opening hours of the border across the country, because now illegals can get in earlier. Right, instead of later in the day. This is ridiculous. But her response moving forward is what I really want to focus on when she talks about putting plans into action. Here we go.
We need to continue to do that.
But I mean, does this mean that you just sit back then and wait for these 30 days? And then
Absolutely not.
Try to show the president that the measures you've announced are working, or do you think you have to go further?
Do I look like somebody that is just sitting back and looking at things happening? No, absolutely not. We're in implementation mode. We're in action mode. So that's why the Minister of Public Safety is in contact with Tom Homan, the border czar of Trump, and I met with him along with the Minister of Immigration last Friday in Washington. That's why we've been in contact with him since then as well. And that's why also the RCMP Commissioner, the head of the CBSA, they're all working on making sure that is happening.
Oh, we are in full working mode. We care. I'm doing lots. We're not just sitting back and waiting for those 30 days to expire. We don't want this trade war. Bullshit. Here's Justin Trudeau's solution. He's going to host a summit. So instead of fixing the border, instead of discussing the actual problem, what Captain Farquaad here, now keep in mind there was a reason in the Shrek movies they called Lord Farquaad. Captain Farquaad here, to be PG, is calling a summit. I wonder how much this is going to cost us. Pierre Justin Trudeau will not reopen Parliament. He will not face the music. but instead host a Canada-US economic summit in Toronto on Friday, one of the most woke cities in the country, so that he can get the backing and support that he needs. Keep in mind, folks, recently, and I'm not going to show the clip because I think it's disgusting, supposed Canadians booing the American national anthem, both at an Ottawa Senators game and a Toronto Raptors basketball game. I want to say right now to all of our American viewers, those so-called Canadians in the wokest cities in the country do not speak for the rest of Canada. It's disgusting. It's absolutely absurd. But that's why Captain Farquaad here is going to Toronto. He wants that support. He wants the Team Canada approach. But he's going to host the summit on Friday, days after Donald Trump said he would hold off on his threatened tariffs against Canada for a month. The Prime Minister's office says the event will assemble Canadian trade businesses, leaders, along with organized labor to discuss strategies to grow the economy, break down internal trade barriers, and diversify exports. He's not going to do any of those things. They're going to put their feet up. They're going to wait for these 30 days to expire so that they can push their stimulus package on Canadians, print more money, and use Donald Trump to buy votes to get people to fear vote them back into being in power. It will also feature members on the Council of U.S.-Canada Relations, which is advising Trudeau on bilateral relations and Trump's tariff threat. Trump signed an executive order on Saturday to levy 25% tariffs against Canada with a lower 10% tariff on Canadian energy. Canada had prepared a retaliatory package, which, again, is not within our best interests, but then a Monday call between Trump and Trudeau swiftly ended the drama, as if they're making it sound like Trudeau had anything to do with it. There were 2 phone calls, I will add. And this was because Donald Trump decided to give that 30-day reprieve for America's benefit. It has nothing to do with Canada. I can assure you that. Experts have raised concerns that the trade uncertainty will make Canada a less desirable place to invest than the U.S. This report by the Canadian Press was first published, again, today, February 5th. So Justin Trudeau doesn't want to solve the problem, ladies and gentlemen. He wants to start a trade war. If Justin Trudeau starts a trade war, they can claim an emergency, they can keep Parliament shut down, they can keep parliamentarians locked out, they can keep spending, they can keep having these summits, these retreats. They recently had a retreat in one of the most expensive cities in Quebec, when they haven't worked since essentially June of 2024. I'm not counting the week and a half that they came back before Parliament was dissolved, because they refuse to cooperate and hand over documents that incriminate them to the RCMP. Why we are still paying their salaries and why they're allowed to hold these summits and run abroad and do all these things and put their feet up and kick back while Donald Trump threatens the biggest trade war in Canadian history is beyond me. Why Canadians are putting up with it is beyond me. Why there's so much hate towards Donald Trump right now for these tariffs is beyond me. This isn't Donald Trump's fault. I've said it a million times. If you want to blame anybody, blame the people we've just been talking about. They're responsible for what's happening here. They're responsible for the downfall of this country, and they're going to be heavily responsible for what comes down the pike in 30 days when Donald Trump's tariffs are persona non grata, when they're pulled. And Canadians are really going to feel the brunt of it. And Justin Trudeau is going to be standing there popping champagne bottles with Mark Carney and the rest of the Liberals saying, oh, we did everything we could. We had summits, we had meetings, we talked about our feelings, and we opened up the border earlier for people to come through. Let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Do you believe these tariffs are not going to go through in 30 days? Or do you think that Trudeau and his minions are passing the buck here in order to push for a trade war? Do you believe they want a trade war? Again, not always trying to preach doom and gloom on this side of the fence, but we're always trying to keep people aware of what is happening so that nobody is caught off guard when it actually goes through. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, if it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to smack that subscribe button. We've been growing our subscribers at a record pace, and with an election hopefully coming soon, we want to make sure everybody is getting the information they deserve, especially when censorship is at an all-time high. So make sure to hit that button, turn on your bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show where I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe, as we go over everything that happened this week in Canadian politics and other politics. We talk about everything we know that's coming up ahead in politics, and we have some back and forth Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to hearing what you have to say this upcoming Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. We hope to see you there. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.